Atma samsamana kritva nakanchit apichintayet shanai shanairuparamir buddhyadriti grihitaya Atma samsamana kritva nakinchit apichintayet shanaihi gradually shanaihi Atma samstam placed in transcendence. Manaha mind. Kritva making. Na not. Kinchit anything else. Api even. Chintayet should think of. Translation Prabhupada by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction. And thus, the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Purport. By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara. The mind being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from the senses should be situated in trance or samadhi. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life. In other words, although one is involved with matter, as long as the body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Ham Shri Guru Sheta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagan Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatamsha He Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vandavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminati Namine Nijaguru Harivanya Krishna Chitto Vichinto Parihita Pitrigehadyanda Sangsara Kupaha Prabhu Bhajana Sukabdo Majjayan Swamsva Vishvo Bhuvi Jayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Chivakshisi Yasyasya Hridaye Samvitam Nrsimhamaham Bhaje Mukam Karti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Giram Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishvaram. So this is verse speaking about how we should be step by step we should control our mind by the means of intelligence sustained by full conviction. Krishna calls it buddhya diti grihitaya, full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone. So this is a very important point, that by proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. That, in order for a person to do something, they need to be convinced. Anything that they do, they need to be completely convinced and driven by it. There's a certain amount of conviction that a person takes in order for them to achieve any means that they actually have. We see this that even the extreme case of suicide bombers. There's a group of people who think that by going and killing themselves and killing a whole lot of other people along with them, they are going to attain a particular status after their death. And that is because of the conviction that they have. And that conviction, how do they get that conviction? They get that conviction by using their intelligence to understand, or they use their intelligence to somehow or the other have faith or be convinced of a particular way of life. And by being convinced of a particular way of life, they use their sense activities. They use their sense activities to attain their goal. So the most important thing that a person actually needs to understand in life is they need to know what the goal of life is. If we understand what the goal of life is, then we can actually shape how we perform so many activities, and everything else revolves around that. But the minute a person is completely shaken or completely confused about the goal of life, or the minute the goal of life becomes relative, it's just a relative thing. Oh, goal of life is a relative thing. Your truth is your truth, my truth is my truth. You're okay and you're fine, and I'm okay and I'm fine. And these kind of convictions, as long as this kind of thought goes on, as long as the intelligence is convinced of something completely on a relative platform, the sense activities are also going to be not satisfying for the soul. And because the sense activities are not satisfying, because the sense activities that we see, that because the intelligence is not fixed on an absolute goal, because it's fixed on a relative goal, then so many things actually change in a person's life. They're convinced of so many different things. They're convinced of this, they're convinced of that. So many people may be very firmly convinced that, if we simply save the whales, everything in the world is going to be very nice. So many people are very convinced that if we simply, stop using a particular kind of gas or a particular kind of diesel, then everything will be completely fine. The world will be a better place to live in. And because, hey, please come in. So you want to, Abhi, you're not greeting the guests? It's a guest. Okay. Yeah, please come. Yeah. So we understand this, that, people may be convinced about different goals of life. Oh, I'm convinced of this, I'm convinced of that. And they're convinced of a particular thing because their intelligence is somehow, people come to a conclusion that this is the ultimate goal of life. But as long as the goal of life is relative and people think that sense gratification is the goal of life, they will be miserable in this world. That is actually there. And because people think that sense gratification is the ultimate end of life, that somehow if we please our senses, then everything we do is completely fine. They're convinced about it and they go and they live their life around it. They live their life around it. And because such a conviction goes on, because their intelligence is drawn towards a conclusion, is drawn towards an objective which is relative, they actually seem to lose a certain amount of enthusiasm, and at the end of their life are pretty hopeless. Because everything that people have invested their time and everything that people have put all their time and energy in, they completely see it fall apart in front of their eyes. And why is this the case? This is the case because the goal itself is not worth investing your time in. The goal itself is not worth investing your time in. The intelligence, all these things that we use to invest our time in, it's all temporary. The activities, the place of our investment of our time, the goal that we want to achieve, all these things are temporary. And because they're temporary, then, the conviction also doesn't last. People become hopeless. Oh, what hope is there? What hope is there to ever overcome this or ever overcome that? And because of a mundane conception of life, then people naturally suffer. But then if people think that sense gratification is the goal of life, then we start to be more and more extravagant in the way we live. We start to live more extravagantly. We try to get this so nice and that's so nice. And it's not just enough to sleep, but you need to sleep in a particular way. You need to do this, you need to do that. But Prabhupada says the root cause of all misery is distress. And because that's the root cause of all misery is distress, then the root cause of all misery is extravagance, then people ultimately lose the aim of life. But nowadays we see that there's no outlet of people being able to focus on anything actually, on anything at all. Why? Because there's so much sense gratification available. Constantly you're distracted on your phone to watch this, to watch this, to watch this, to watch that. Like I remember when Netflix first came out, so many students, their grades were just really dropping really bad, even in my own school. Why? Because people would just binge watch. And it's before you would just watch, you turn on TV and maybe you'd see one episode of some soap or cartoon or one episode of Dragon Ball Z, and you'll have to wait until the whole next day at 8:30 for it to play the next episode. But now you can just watch the whole series in one sitting. And so many students were they couldn't control their senses. They couldn't, because wow, what gives me happiness? Watching this TV series gives me happiness. And then you watch it and you watch it and you watch it, and then You actually lose focus on what you really want to do. There's no question of having a steady mind when we're indulging so much in sense gratification. The whole purpose of indulging our senses is that we actually think that this gives us happiness. But what ends up happening is a person loses a sense of discrimination. When you indulge too much in sense gratification, what happens is the intelligence loses its strength to discriminate. And when we lose our strength to discriminate, then we will not know what is to be done and what is not to be done for our immediate benefit and for the long-term benefit. And because so much sense gratification being available, people actually go mad. People go mad after sense gratification. We can literally say that America is the most opulent country in the world, but it also has the most amount of people with the mental problems in the world. Why is this the case? This is the case because of too much sense gratification. This is exactly what happens. People are convinced that the ultimate goal of life is sense gratification. People are convinced that the ultimate goal of life is to somehow or the other enjoy this world as much as possible. Enjoy as much as you can. Squeeze every drop out of it, every little drop out of it. Enjoy this world. And the more we try to enjoy it, the more we indulge our senses in, the more we actually lose our mind. Because the minute we think that sense gratification is the goal of life, there's only so much limited sense gratification that we can achieve through our senses. There's only so much limited sense gratification we can achieve through our eyes until it gets saturated. So much sense gratification you can attain to your ears, to your tongue, through your sense of touch. So then, because we want to move from one kind of sense gratification to another, then we always hover on this mental platform of going from one kind of sense objects. Okay, I'm done enjoying this kind of sense gratification. Now let me go and try to enjoy this kind of sense gratification. And now let me go here and let me go there. And then we enjoy too much. Then we actually start to, what should I do? What should I do how should I enjoy my senses? How should I enjoy my senses? And because all this is relative, sense gratification is relative, the means and the way people attain sense gratification is relative. Sense gratification itself is relative. All of it is temporary. So where can steady conviction come from? Therefore, a sober person, a yogi, by proper conviction and intelligence, gradually ceases his sense activities because he's actually convinced that sense gratification is not the ultimate goal of life. That to please our senses is not the goal of life. The minute we understand this through our intelligence, we understand that, so many people are out there gratifying their senses and they're not happy. So many people have full facility to enjoy sense gratification and they're still not happy. So many people have full facility to enjoy sense gratification and they kill themselves. Why? Why? Because ultimately this does not bring about satisfaction. There is no satisfaction in simply trying to overload the senses. And as long as we do not understand this point, as long as we live our life in limited consciousness, in calculative consciousness, we want to calculate everything, we want to measure everything and try to see how I can enjoy it, then there will be no scope of satisfaction, what to speak of happiness. Therefore, a sober person applies this process called pratyahara, and the mind is controlled by conviction. Prabhupada says mind is controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from the sense activities, from the senses. How is the mind controlled? The mind is controlled when a person actually has intelligence. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhyah parav manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddheh paratastu saha. That the senses are superior to dull matter. Superior than dull matter, superior than the senses is the mind. Superior than the mind is the intelligence. And superior than the intelligence is the soul, or it could also be the super soul. Or in that context, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says it could be lust. So a person has to make a choice. What do I want to be controlled by? If you want to be controlled by lust, then at that point of time, lust completely takes over everything. Lust completely takes over everything. Therefore, a sober person tries to understand that this is actually not the direction that we want to go in. A sober person will understand this. And they will use their intelligence in order to mold their life in such a way that they focus and meditate upon an absolute object. That's the point. That if we do not meditate upon an absolute object and we meditate on relative objects, then naturally our happiness, our goal of life, everything else will be relative. It's a very simple thing to understand. That because if you are meditating on anything else but anything else but an object which is not eternal, then naturally we will always hover on the temporary mental platform. We'll always hover on it. Because if we meditate on a temporary object, the shelf life of this temporary material object is going to run out sooner or later. Sooner or later. So many people may have been meditating upon, getting the latest, maybe like 10, 15, 16 years ago. So many people would have been meditating on, oh, wow, I'm going to get the first iPhone that's ever released. I'm going to get this and I'm going to be happy. Right? When was the first iPhone released? Like 15 years ago? Yeah, 2000, okay, maybe 20 years ago. People may have thought, really, no, whatever, 15 years ago, whatever. Some time ago, when the new iPhone, people thought, wow, if I actually get this iPhone, then I'll be so happy. And they were meditating upon it, and people actually got it. But now, who will say that if I got that first iPhone that was ever released, I will actually be happy? No. You don't have to get the first. Now you have to go all the way till 15. 15? Is that the new one? Not yet. Okay, whatever. Now you have to go all the way down 14 models. And then when you finally get that model, then you finally have been meditating upon it. And your intelligence is convinced that by getting this temporary object, all happiness will come out of it. Then, again, something else comes about. Why? Because this has a saturation point. It has a saturation point. Acquiring a lot of wealth has a saturation point. Going to the heavenly planets has a saturation point. So many places, they have a saturation point. What do you end up getting? Gatagatam kama kama labhante. You simply get repeated birth and death in one way, shape, or form. In one way, shape, or form. We get repeated birth and death, always. As we keep on investing our time in these kinds of activities, we keep getting repeated birth and death. And because we get repeated birth and death, there is no ultimately, there's no ultimate satisfaction of the soul. There's no satisfaction on that platform. For this simple reason, because our object of meditation is on the relative platform. Our object of meditation is on the temporary platform. And because the object of meditation is on the temporary platform, then certainly we will find that our senses will simply be engaged more and more in sense gratification. How much sense gratification can we attain? Not much, really. And we'll be convinced of wrong things. If we are convinced about getting happiness out of temporary things, if we meditate upon temporary things, and we use our senses and sense activities in these temporary things, naturally we will suffer in this world. That's just the way this world works. Because our entire goal of life is also relative. You can grab, people, you can go try to grab happiness with both your hands, will just slip through like quicksand. This is the nature of time. But a sober person, when they fix their mind on the eternal process of Krishna consciousness, although we have this material body, although this material body is there, when we look at everything and we utilize it in the service of Krishna, and don't falsely announce it, prapanchikataya buddhya, hari sambandhi vastunaha, mumukshubi parityago, phalgu vairagya phalgu katyate. Vairagya phalgu katyate. Prapanchikataya buddhya, hari sambandhi vastunaha. That a person who actually has proper intelligence will see how everything in this world can be used in the service of Krishna. Prapanchikataya buddhya, hari sambandhi vastunaha. Mumukshubi parityago. And then he does not falsely give these things up. He does not falsely give these things up as mundane or as useless, and does not falsely renounce it like a monkey. They actually understand real renunciation. They utilize everything in the service of Krishna. So similarly, we have this material body. And as long as this material body, although it is relative, although this material body is temporary, this material body can be used to attain the absolute truth. This material body is a tool that can be used to attain the absolute truth. And ultimately, it all boils down to how a person's intelligence is convinced as to how they want to use this tool, which is called the body. Ultimately, if we have this body, and the body has intelligence and has a mind and all these things, and a person is convinced that this body should be used as a vehicle to transport myself from material existence to spiritual existence, that is a proper use of this tool. That is perfect yukta vairagya. But if a person uses this body, this mind, this intelligence to wrap themselves up more in material consciousness, then this is a bad use of the tool. That's all. We can see this, that Certain tools are used for certain things. And, a car is meant to take us from one place to another. But then if you use the car as like, if you use the car for using it as a weight to hold something down, that's not the best use of the car. Get a rock or something. But the car is used to travel from one place to another. So similarly, this material body, although made of matter, although temporary, affords us this great opportunity of going back home, back to Godhead. And we must be convinced of this. The mind should be convinced, should be firmly rooted in the conviction that by using the senses in the service of Krishna, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchite, if the mind and the intelligence is firmly convinced that if we utilize our senses in the service of Krishna, then this body can be used as a tool for transcendently transporting us from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. That is a proper conviction. That is what it means to be absorbed. If we are not absorbed in spiritual thoughts, then naturally we will be absorbed in mundane thoughts. We will be absorbed in mundane consciousness. And these things have a lot of effect. And the people we associate with actually form our conviction. The people we associate with, the sound vibration that we associate with, firmly causes our conviction, because we ourselves, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Shraddhavan Mayo Purushaha, that a person itself is made of faith. A person is made, that the living entity and faith cannot be separated. The living entity and conviction cannot be separated. That conviction is so integral to the spirit soul. It's so integral. And then if we are not convinced of the right thing, and if we put our faith in wrong things, then we'll actually get temporary objects. We'll actually get temporary rewards. We'll get so much suffering. And this is the story of our life, back to back to back in this material world. Every life we are always convinced. But the minute we understand, we're convinced that actually this is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. And when we are on that platform and we actually see that, okay, we are, we are tapping into the spiritual potency of Krishna. When we make the convictions of the previous acharyas one with their convictions, if we make our convictions one with their convictions, then we'll actually be tapped into the spiritual potency. And we can even see this that in the life of Srila Prabhupada. So many people told Srila Prabhupada, don't go to America. Why do you want to go to America? What's there? Old man, you will die. What? Sumati Murarji, she said, old man, you will die. You'll have nothing to eat there. You'll have nothing. You will die. You simply sit here and write your books. What need is there for you to go to America? There's no need. People over there are too sinful. They will not take to this process of Krishna consciousness. Impossible. Don't go. Don't go. Then Prabhupada said, no, my spiritual master told me, I'm convinced. I'm convinced because my spiritual master is convinced about this. And because he was convinced about it, and he made his conviction one with the conviction of a spiritual master, this huge miracle of Krishna consciousness actually took place. Why? Because that conviction, because the conviction of the previous spiritual masters, our previous preceptors, are on the absolute platform. If we make our conviction one with their conviction, then naturally we'll be tapped into the spiritual potency. What to speak of being freed? Being freed from the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease is just a byproduct. We can actually experience spiritual happiness, which is what Krishna is speaking about. Fix on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Chitte arna kori ho mane ash. If we do not have any other desire but to make the words of the spiritual master one with the heart, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, Chitte kori aikya, arna kori ho mane ash. If we make the words of the spiritual master one with our heart, if we have the same conviction as that of the pure representatives of Guru and Krishna, then at that point of time, we will actually experience the highest bliss. You'll experience the highest bliss. And when this bliss is attained, we will think there is no gate again. What else do I need? What else do I need? Why do you have to go do this? Why do you have to go do that? Everything is right here. Everything, you'll get the highest bliss right here in your bead bag. You can get the highest happiness in your bead bag. You can chant the most ecstatic rounds. And I've noticed this, that there's such a quality of a difference when I distribute Arabic books. When you distribute Arabic books and the next day you chant your rounds, it's really ecstatic. It's a thing. It's really a genuine thing. And then, Hare Krishna, you want to give him water? Yeah, if you can please take your shoes off outside. You know, we see this that we should have a devotee station out there. So we can see this that you know when we perform devotional activities, even my spiritual master, he was telling us that how when he was preaching in Bangladesh, he was preaching in Bangladesh, and it was during the rainy season, and then they were simply like, although it was raining, they would go on boats from one village to another, and they would go and they would distribute books and preach Krishna consciousness and do all these things. And then the only reason they stopped is because they saw like a dead body floating down the road, not the road, floating down the river. They saw a dead body and they thought, okay, we should stop. We should not keep going. Then he said, the next morning in Mangal Arti, he just experienced so much bliss. He experienced so much bliss. He experienced so much happiness. And he knew that Krishna is actually satisfied. And this we cannot go and buy elsewhere. You know, people may think, oh, you guys are performing so many austerities, you know, rising early every morning, chanting these rounds, going out there, working so hard, you know, like distributing these books or cleaning the temple, and it's an austere life and doing all these things. Where is your bliss? Where is your bliss? It's completely on the spiritual platform. Apratyaksha. It's covered for those on the mundane platform. But then when we actually we make the convictions of the spiritual master one with our heart, we make the convictions of the previous preceptors one with our heart, and we act on that conviction, and we become convinced of that, then at that point of time, and when you're in the kirtan with such people who are completely convinced, then it's really, you can experience that bliss. It's available. It's available. But the key to receiving that bliss is commitment. The more we're committed, the more we're convinced, then the more our mind becomes our friend. Naturally, everyone looks forward to waking up for Mangalarti, looking forward to getting out of the bed, looking forward to these things. Why? Because you're able to transcend all these things. Why? Because the conviction, because of proper conviction. Proper conviction can take us out of this material world. Whereas improper conviction keeps us in this material world. So many people are so foolishly stubborn. Your entire life is a mess. You know, we met so many people, right? Your entire life is a mess. You don't have any engagement. Whatever you're doing does not make any sense. You come and you can experience the bliss of Krishna consciousness, and you'll actually be happy. Why don't you come and join? Oh no, I don't want to join. Why? Why do you not want to join? What do they tell you? Like, I have so many. The homie can't keep a beat, and he's thinking of being Kanye West. Like, you know, come on. You can't keep a beat, my man. Like, you can't even keep a beat in kirtan, you know. Please stop playing the wampus. You're really messing up the kirtan. Stop, you know. But the guy wants to be Kanye West. Like, you know, I have so many people looking up to me. Who? You have 3 followers on Instagram. Who's looking up to you? Like your mom, your dad, and your brothers, your followers. And you manage their accounts. Who is looking up to you? Really, who is looking up to you? No one. But improper conviction keeps you in the material world. Improper conviction. No. I have this, somehow the other, yeah, because they're telling me I can't do it, I'm really going to do it now. Like, you know, it's, you know, out of a million people that say that, one guy makes it. And they say, I'm now 1 in a million, I'm the only one. And then they fail like hell. But when they're failing also because of improper conviction, because of them being obstinate, because of them being stubborn, they do not make any advancement. They're stuck in the muck of their material existence. Completely controlled by the mind. There is no logical reason. You could meet someone and logically and philosophically completely demolish them. But because of improper conviction, they still refuse to actually make the next step in their spiritual life. They still refuse to do it. Improper convictions. Improper convictions always lead us to the wrong path. Improper convictions let us into the mess that we're in. You can prove to people, like, you know, for example, I remember once I was shooting books, and then there was like this, there was this person, he claimed to be a Christian. He wasn't really a real Christian, but anyway, claimed to be a Christian. He said, oh wow, okay, you're a Mongol, so you believe in reincarnation. I said, sorry, I don't believe in it. Actually, it's happening. It's happening all the way. Like, and I gave him the example of, you know, remember being a baby, and then, like, you know, from being a baby till now, you know, you've grown so big, and, like, you know, so many things of your body changed. Does not mean that you're changing your body? And he was like, okay, so what? That doesn't mean anything. I said, do you not think there's a difference between your body that you had when you were a baby and you know, I don't think there's a difference. I said, bro, you literally grew like 6 feet, bro. Do you really not think there's a difference between how your body looked when you were a baby? Uh, it doesn't matter. And then I said, okay. Then he said, oh, so you think you had past lives? I said, yeah, definitely. And then he said, do you remember who you were in your past life? I asked him, how old are you, sir? He said, 40. Do you remember what you ate for breakfast 5 years ago? No, no. Do you remember what you ate for breakfast when you were 5 years old? He said, no. I said, because you don't remember, does it mean it didn't happen? And he was like, and you know, that's it. But no, I know, still, you know, you're still going to hell, you know. Why am I going to hell? Like, for what? For what reason, you know? No reason. Improper conviction. It's literally what it is, improper convictions. Improper convictions take us from one place. Everything can be given to you here, right here, bro. You take this right here. Take this right here. Take this and you'll actually be happy. No. You know, and you explain to him everything and he reads everything. It makes sense, but no. No. Improper conviction. Why? Because of being stubbornly obstinate. I do not want to change. I do not want to change. The spirit soul is the conditioned soul is always afraid of changes. But you know what's funny? The entire atmosphere of the material world is always changing. Always changing. We're so afraid of change, but we're all in an atmosphere that's ever changing. The only thing constant in this material world is change. And there's nothing we can do about it. The question is, will we be stubborn and obstinate and refuse to change, or will we change ourselves? That's the question. And changing ourselves means having the right conviction, using that intelligence to mold the intelligence, to mold it in a way that we can actually distinguish reality from illusion. Intelligence is used to discriminate. Discriminate between what? Now discriminate, how dare you discriminate? Discrimination is so bad. It's actually not bad. Discrimination is not a bad thing. Like if there's a piece of glass and there's an apple, you discriminate with your intelligence and not eat the piece of glass, but eat the apple. Is that like a bad thing? No. Similarly, we discriminate between things which bind us to this material world and things which don't bind us to this material world, and we use our intelligence to step forward and make advances towards things which actually liberate us from this material world. That's all. That's all. And a person who's fixed in proper convictions can actually experience bliss of the self. You know, and we can see this, that, you know, and ultimately, you know, where does conviction come from? Conviction comes from a higher taste. Conviction comes from some kind of a taste, actually. Lower, like, you know, improper convictions come from a perverted taste, and proper convictions come from a spiritual taste. That's why Vishaya vinivartanti nirahara shidehina rasovarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. That if we want to have proper convictions, we have to experience that higher taste. And in order for us to experience the higher taste, we must be willing to give up our lower taste. And then, you know, and you can think about it. Okay, you know, let me know if there's anything in the world that you can just constantly chant over and over again and only gets better. Is there anything? Is there a song that you can play for 50 years every day, 2 hours every day, play the same song every day, 2 hours? You know, by yourself, chant the lyrics of that song every day for 2 hours for 50 years. Will you experience some great bliss from it? No. But the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so simple. It's 3 words. You chant it repeatedly over and it only gets better. It only gets better. Why? Because of the spiritual nature. Because it's an eternal object. Because this object is eternal. The benefits we get from this object is also eternal. It's a very simple thing. But as long as we're stubbornly obstinate and do not want to change, we will, no matter what, we won't change. Even if we're philosophically defeated, even if we give the higher taste, no matter what happens, if we are stubbornly obstinate, even after experiencing everything, we're saying, no, I'm still going to be like this. Okay. What can be done? Pashyanapina pashyati. Seeing but not seeing. Everything is in front of us. Seeing but not seeing. Vimuda nanu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Everything is there in front of us, but still we do not want to see. Still we do not want to accept. How unfortunate. How unfortunate. So close, but yet so far. Why? Because of being stubbornly obstinate. We're too convinced. We're too convinced of false notions. There's that in material life, there's that in spiritual life also. So we should be very careful about what we're convinced and why we're convinced about what we're convinced. And if we simply base our intelligence and our convictions, one should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. We simply directly practice Krishna consciousness. And in Krishna consciousness, the most important thing is association of devotees. If we simply come and associate with devotees, everything else comes about. It's simply a matter of showing up. And those who show up, they get so much benefit. Literally, right? The whole bhakti, those who show up make it. Right? That's the whole philosophy. Those who show up make it. Really. Most of the people who show up make it. Why? Because, we show that we're serious. So the minute we associate more than everything else in Krishna consciousness comes about. If we just make this the unchanging factor of our life, instead of having our ego be the unchanging factor of our life, if we make at least one thing the unchanging factor of, especially when we're new. I remember when I was new, the only thing I made like the unchanging factor of my life, that no matter what, every day I'm just going to go and associate with the devotees, even if it means I'm just going to freaking sit with them and not do anything, or just eat like their saltless khichdi. They used to make really I don't know why they would offer this khichdi to Krishna, but it was really bad khichdi, No salt, it was so bad. But I was like, okay, no matter what, I'm going to go, I'm going to associate with them, and even if they give me this, I'm going to take it. And and that really helped me so much. So even if we say, no matter what, every Tuesday from 6 to 8, this is my unflinching, unchanging conviction that I'm going to come and I'm going to do this every Tuesday, 6 to 8, no matter what. You'll thank us later. You'll thank yourself like, wow, this is the best choice I ever made. Because it all starts off with that. It all starts off with showing up. Shraddha. It just comes with showing up and associating with the devotees. You may meet a devotee, you may get Shraddha. That you meet someone in a Walmart or something like that. You receive faith. What? Actually, maybe I'm going to go check this out. And then you come into sadhu sangha. You come into the association of devotees, and then bhajana kriya starts. And you learn the technicalities of how to perform devotional service. But it all starts by being convinced. And then the minute we get a little conviction, then we should go and spread that conviction to everyone else. That is the duty. So I'll end the class over here. If there's any questions or comments, we can take them now.
Hare Krishna. So, just few, I guess I have a question also. Just like now you see, you're speaking about sense gratification and conviction, and one huge problem there's a mental health crisis and there's no conviction in anything.
Mm.
You're just all over the place.
Mm.
So in a society that's like that, where it's becoming worse and worse, practically every year, where the more as modern technology grows and the more advanced it becomes, the less and less intelligent people are becoming, and less and less determined, less and less convinced of anything. So how do we, is there anything you can go or say in terms of how these people will get Krishna consciousness and become convinced? Because it's just like, if you look in the room around us, how many, at least young people are meant to be attracted to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's, a good amount of young people here, but like young people that are coming from Atlanta, although we've given them so many invitations, maybe you could say something about that in that regard. Like certain people, we've even sat down and talked to them and actually bring them to the point of like, okay, this is the thing. But to them, it's just like, there's no, just something is dead, there's like, that connection is not there for some reason.
Yeah, that's there. I'm trying to look for this verse.
Or like, somehow we were able to get convinced of doing one thing, like you said, you came every day. I would put the same thing. Every day.
Just show up. If you just show up, you're good.
Yeah.
You're literally good. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I showed up intoxicated most of the time. I'm not lying. It's my fallen condition. I would show up intoxicated most of the time. I was like just stoned out of my mind when I would show up sometimes. but then somehow I got purified. I'm not, this is how fallen I am. I would show up really most of the time. And then after some time, I just realized, I should probably stop doing this.
Like there's like the other type of people that have been showing up for so many Sundays and so many things, but
Yeah.
yeah, so there's like those cases too. So I'm kind of like, it's like definitely something a little bit like, sometimes you convince them and that's there, but determination never comes about.
Yeah, determination never comes about. Good fortune also has to be there. The good fortune also has to be, Krishna has to allow you to come to his temple, you know. And all these things are also there. And there's so many other factors which we can literally not quantify. We can literally not quantify it. I mean, in thinking of my own life, when I first ran into the devotees in New York, I cannot literally quantify how did all these things which were going right in my life just go wrong just at that point of time, and when I just happened to say, like the Krishna factor is there. The Krishna factor, and that be thou happy by the sacrifice. We just have to perform the sacrifice. We have to use our intelligence, and also what is this? This is such an amazing thing in the Sanskrit here. What is that? Buddhya diti grihitaya. That we should, by intelligence and be carried by conviction. By intelligence, I mean, in 1965, who came? Who came? That Prabhupada is a personification of this. Buddhya diti grihitaya. His intelligence was completely driven by his conviction. Who came? Even in 1966, who was there? Bunch of hippies and then, Prabhupada cultivates them for some time, and one of the lead followers starts up and starts speaking Mayavad big time. I mean, what can we do? But it's a struggle sometimes, It is a struggle. It is a struggle, but we just have to keep going, and we still have to do the right thing. And it's not like we're not getting any, but it may not be coming to the scale that we may want it to come to. But as long as we keep it steady and focused, and in this regard, my very dear friend, Avadhuta Chandra Prabhu, sent me this very amazing quote of Srila Prabhupada, where, okay, so I guess no one can read that. No? Yeah? Okay. Another Srila Prabhupada GBC man, Satsvarup Das Goswami, had recently replaced Rameshwar Swami as Prabhupada's secretary for the month. Srila Prabhupada Satsvarup asked one evening while sitting with Prabhupada in his quarters, when I first came here, Rameshwar Maharaj said that you had been speaking of how Krishna consciousness would rise to power in the United States. And I find it hard to have that vision since now it's just the opposite. Do you feel that way, Mr. Chandan Acharya Prabhu? Right? It seems like you do. It is true, said Srila Prabhupada, but now it has only taken its roots. You have to water it and protect it. Then you will get fruit. You have to give it protection. People must hear about us by what? By our books. And we have to talk about the books. So it is not that it will happen overnight? Question mark? No, said Srila Prabhupada. Gradually it will grow. The seed is there. Now protect it by introducing more and more books in every house. Again, Prabhupada referred to the upcoming New York court case. At least tell them to read our books, he said. This is our statement. Our defense is that you, first of all, read these books and then give your statement. Finish this and then give your judgment. Give them all these 84 books. So the solution is to always perform yajna. Yajna vai Vishnuhu. That's the bottom line. But even if you're the last man standing, just do it. And we don't know, I mean, just thinking like, how did we get, I don't mean to embarrass you, but how did we get Bhakti Trace? And just randomly one day, like his whole life fell apart. I mean, not exactly, but something like that. And then and then he looked us up online and he typed Krishna Temple and they had a few options, but then because of your website, right? And then he looked at the website and he came, and then I started joking with Trace right from when I saw him, and then after class we sat down to him and preached the hell out of him and made him join. The rest is history. Like, who cares, bro? Like, eat this feast, shave up, let's go, and he did it. Like, what are the chances? Why? And we told this to Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj said, yeah, just do the yajna. Krishna will send you people somehow there. And that's the case. That's really the case. So bottom line is, I can't tell you quantify it and exactly tell you, well, Prabhu, we're doing this wrong in this formula, and if we just change this ingredient. No, bottom line, we don't know what the heck is happening. Right? That's the truth. if we were to actually like administer and say, okay, what is actually going on here? Like, how did you just go to New Talavan right on time and like want to contact someone else, and you somehow got hold of Jacob and you took him to a river in a farm, and he was not creeped out by it, and like, and you convinced him to surrender, and he got into the van while some dude was texting him that we are like big demons and don't do. How can you quantify that? Like, well, let's quantify this. How can you do it? You can't. It's Krishna's mercy. It's Krishna, and we can think so many of the Mataji. I mean, how can you actually like, oh, this is what happened right now. Krishna was pleased. And one thing I noticed, Krishna will give you more stuff if you take care of the stuff he already gave you. I have that direct pratyaksha pramana of taking care of the Honda Odyssey. We first had a freaking ghetto Honda Odyssey that like this Gujarati guy wanted to give us because he was like, that they always gave, he gave us a second hand. And it was full of dog hair everywhere, and it was just like, dang, dude, like, this is what we got. And that was our first ride in New York. And like, we took care of that car well, and then like we upped it, and like look at the parking lot. I'm just saying, if you, that's the thing. If you take care of the devotees that Krishna gave you, Krishna will send you more. And I've seen places where they don't take care of devotees, it just fizzles out. So that's the bottom line.
Is like on the other end of that, like like.
Yeah.
And that's it's like you spend hours and hours and this thing and that thing, and Krishna sends something, and then later down the line you look around and those devotees that came about and Krishna gave,
Yeah.
is like, it's really inspiring. They're
Yeah.
distributing so many books, they surrendered, they're getting initiated.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I'll tell you something. The amount of happiness you are going to experience when Trace gets initiated is going to be like a whole other thing for you. Like, when I saw like Abdul get initiated, I was just like, oh my goodness. And even Ram, I distribute books to Ram, man. Like, and Ram got initiated. You cannot imagine. It was like, wow, what the heck? It's amazing. You can't. It is just an inconceivable amount of happiness. Nick is, of course, Nick. I was just telling him, Nick. Now I got to say Nick and Ty and Chidagirish and Sharon Deep, like, everyone, Mataji's and the amount of happiness you're going to experience. It's going to be next level, something else, and it's worth it. Even if you fail, the fact that you sacrifice for Lord Chaitanya will never go in vain. Abhi, what do I always tell you? Every time we're suffering, we'll get paid in full by Lord Chaitanya. Don't worry. We're going to get paid in full no matter what. So that's our conviction. That Prabhupada got paid in full by Lord. He's still getting paid, Like, just see. It's the same thing. We'll get paid in full. Lord Chaitanya is going to give us so much if we simply stick to the process. And it's a struggle, man. Like, it's not easy. It's really not easy. Like, I was just thinking, like, man, Matsya and Nick really suffered in that, the last weekend. They really suffered, But, do you regret it? No. Why not? Why? You must be brainwashed, right? Something must be. But the truth is they experience a higher bliss. That's the truth. So we cannot quantify this. You cannot quantify Krishna's mercy. The minute we try to quantify, that's Maya, because Maya means trying to measure things. We cannot measure Krishna. Na aham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudhoyam na vijanati mamebhya loko mama jamavyayam. Yes, similar to avajanati maya. Loko mama jamavyayam. Krishna refrains himself. He holds the right to remove the veil of Maya or not. And so, as long as we protect the stuff that Krishna gave us, as long as we take care of the devotees that Krishna gave us, as long as we take care of the property or the vehicle, whatever Krishna, you take care of it, Krishna sends you more. You prove to Krishna that, okay, I mean business, and it happens. So whatever you got, give it all you got, and then give it some more, and then, it all started out. I remember the first day I distributed books. I distributed 42 books, and I thought I was a champ, man. Like, that was the nectar. I remember like being a Bhakta, brand new, distributed like 42 books, and now like you have Bhakta Jacob distributing 2 Bhagavatam sets, like this, like his day, like it's ecstatic. It's really amazing, But it started off like that humble beginnings, So these are humble beginnings. Yeah, all right, We're not like the most popping like world power right now, but humble beginnings, Like seriously, dang, like Steve Jobs, like was he like popping when that's so small, Humble beginnings, But you have the right conviction. I mean, your mind, your heart, your conviction is in the right place. So it's just a matter of, Mukundatta Prabhu told me this. Mukundatta Prabhu told me this when he met me in New York, that this is going to happen. He actually predicted all of this is going to happen. He told me, actually just now, he told me so much more stuff, which I will not say now, but he predicted all the other things which are going to happen too, and I'm sure it's going to happen because he's Mukundatta Prabhu. So anyway, yes, Matsya Prabhu. He has a longer hand, so I got to give him. Sorry.
Right. So you point that like the soul is always looking for unchanged thing, like recognize this. And they say that like these like religious rituals and like repetitive activities and stuff like that is like a form of like self hypnosis, which is like making you forget about the changing situation so that you're no longer in anxiety and stuff like that. And, like if you look at our life and we do so many repetitive things and like ritualistic things, and some I've heard like some even devotees like saying like because you're so absorbed in this type of thing, you're like ignorant to what's actually happening out there. Can you like refute this?
I mean, it's simple. Like, everyone is undergoing hypnosis no matter what. You're watching TV. Do you think, oh, it's completely just like the television is a mind controlling machine. Your phone is a mind controlling machine. The truth is, no matter who you are, where you are, repetition means what? Regulation. You're regulated, right? You regularly do something every day. So if you regularly just read the newspaper, sense gratification is the ultimate goal of life. And all these things. You're being brain, ultimately it's going to happen. You're repeatedly going to be told something or the other. That, so much goes on in the name of, education and this and that. And so many falsities are taught. Be honest. Thanksgiving. What did they teach you about Thanksgiving? How do you believe that? What happened on Thanksgiving? Oh, we all just shared grains with the native people, and he had a hen, and I had like a nice German Shepherd, and they were having fun, or whatever the heck. I had a turkey, and the German Shepherd and the turkey were good friends until the German Shepherd ate him. Hey, but that's what dogs do. And what the heck? And you were told this over and over again, right? So basically, on fundamental level, they're saying, do not listen to do not listen to anyone. Do not listen to anyone. But you should listen to me telling you not to listen to anyone. Where does this go? Repetition goes on. It is hypnosis, right? Chewing the chewed. The whole advertisement industry is, bro, like this time the iPhone's going to make you happy, big time. Yeah, it's got like 3 cameras now. Soon it's going to have 4. Matter of fact, it's going to get inside your brain, and you're going to be really happy now. And why? What the hell are you talking about? It's so crazy, But it's on and on, the same thing over and over. So it happens anyway. So instead of taking object and information from temporary things, we take information from eternal things, like Shastra. That makes sense? Okay. Why don't we talk after class? Do the mothers have anything? Yes, mother. 1 minute, please.
You made a comment, or maybe I hope I heard you correctly, that we are made of faith.
Uh-huh.
Could you expand upon that a bit more?
There's a verse in the Gita where Krishna says that itself, that the living entity is comprised of faith. Because without faith, you can't do anything, It's like you walk into a building, that means you have faith that the building is not going to collapse. If your daughter gave you water, you have faith that she didn't poison the water. Right? You have faith. Everything you do requires faith. Huh? 70, okay, Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, text number 3. You can look it up and you understand it from that. Shraddhavan Mayo Purushaha. Right? Okay, so anything else from the Matajis? Okay, awesome. Baba Mai Mataji, thank you for coming. Congratulations on your initiation. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha Kalpatarubhishya. Kripa